late into the night, so not everything will be 100% accurate. I was up 12 a.m., 1 a.m. writing this paper. So here we go. So what is coding? I'd like that to ask yourself that. Coding is what makes the lights in our room glow, and it's what makes our electronic devices function. Coding is what makes robots move and allows us to perform many functions. So today I'll be talking about a brief history of coding. So coding, also known as computer programming, has evolved throughout the ages. There are many types of coding, some known as channel coding and pattern coding. Channel coding is a way of finding errors and performing many functions. Pattern coding is a way of doing other sorts of coding, like transferring one code to another and executing higher level commands. So, some might say coding is used commonly for web development. That is true, but also untrue at the same time. Coding can also be used for various other things, as I mentioned before. So to find out what coding is, first we have to look at its synonyms definition, which is also computer programming. So computer programming is the basic general idea of inputting many forms of various types of code in order to execute certain types of functions, as I have mentioned before. Machine code was the language of early programming. So written in section of binary. Binary is ones and zeros. Just think of ones and zeros. I don't want to confuse you all here. So machine code was used for early coding. It didn't have much general use. There was no products made for it. The machine coding was used just for fun. But later, assembly languages were soon developed that let the programmers specify instruction. This means that this was more of in the 1900s. So this was real coding. This real coding applied to things like what you see on websites, HTML, CSS, which HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Link, and CSS is Cascading Style Sheets. Those, you don't need to know any of those. Those are just examples of what assembly languages are. So then after a while, high-level languages allowed the programmer to write programs in terms that are syntactically richer and more set via compilation, declarations, and heuristics. So to make that simple, it would be more computer coding, less wires, because before coding was literally just putting wires into each other. There was no general, I write this line of code, or I perform this line of function. No, it was all just wires. You had to like buy certain things in order to code. But then that changed soon. This was also, when I said it was richly enhanced, this was also the start of RTF documents, or as you may know, rich text format documents. So yeah, before all of our code, programs were still mostly entered using punch card or paper tape. That's right. Paper tape was literally the strand of paper that you could literally write on. This thing is the equivalent to notebook paper. So imagine writing code on your notebook paper. It would be that easy. And then punch cards. So I'm sure you all took tests where you have Scantron and you have to bubble in the right answer. It was before all of the advanced coding. It was that was coding. It was used for none other than coding. That was it. Of course, our technology advanced, and we finally moved from scantrons to digital, and we used those scantrons for tests, as we know today. So, by the late 1960s, data storage devices and computer terminals had been built. So, like the gigabytes upon gigabytes among your PC or your phone that you might see today. That is making me very uncomfortable. Text editors were developed that allowed changes and corrections to be made much more. So, I don't know if you know this, but you could right click on your PC, start a new text document, and you could code as simple as that. It was that easy, and that's how we have evolved throughout the ages. Text editors would start out as a .txt format, but there's nothing you need to know generally much about the extensions, because the txt is an extension. I won't go much detail into that because not many people know about coding. All that you need to know is that you could start a document and it could be considered as coding. So now let's dive a bit into quality requirements. So you have heard of Java, JavaScript, Python, and many other forms of code, but they all have these 6 requirements. First, it must be reliable. It needs to have like a certain language. You must be able to use it in a certain way so that if you're coding, you don't just input some random text and it would be considered as coding. No, it needed to have its unique own language. The program must be easy to anticipate errors. So errors must be easily found within the program. Like, you have to be able to see it, you have to be able to know it, you must be able to look at there and be like, oh hey, there is something wrong over there. Number 3, it must be easy to use or learn. So I know Python and other forms of coding are very, very hard to learn, but in general, once you get the general idea of them, they are very easy. I found this out because I did do some online programming lessons I have learned throughout, and I've already been learning for 1 year and also been coding for the exact same amount of time. It must be portable. So, as we use our third-party webs on the phone today, you must be able to put it on the website over there. It has to be able to go on all devices, generally. Unless it's a new device that came out, then it has to be usable on all devices. Okay. 5, it must be maintainable for past or future owners. So the inventor of this language of code must be able to manipulate it and change it for future potential owners that may get their hands on it. And 6, it must be efficient. Like, it has to be, like, this language of code must take the least amount of space on your device. Like, it cannot take up, like, 500 megabytes. No, that'd be absolutely ridiculous unless it was several thousand lines of code. Yes, it must be efficient with space and usage, so that when we're trying to code, our PC storage won't just fill up due to all that coding. So as you can see, throughout the ages, we have advanced through coding. Coding is a beneficial part of our lives now, especially in the 20th century. And I just wanted to acknowledge that with all of you, and I want you to know what has happened throughout the ages that allowed your mobile devices to work and function and even play games. And yeah, that is all I have to say about a long history of coding. Thank you.